Hello, welcome to MoreBikes.co.uk for another episode in our series of maintenance tips for your motorcycle. We're still working with our 1989 ZXR 750H1, an iconic superbike from the late 80s, but we're using this bike because most of the things that we are doing on here will transfer almost identically to your motorcycle, and we can be pretty sure about that no matter what bike you have. It's a pretty basic superbike in the sense that there's no fancy electronics, there's no sensors, there's no anything like that. So what we can do on here with spanners and the basic process of maintenance, you'll be able to do at home as well. Now, as ever with these, we must stress that if you are not sure about your own ability, you're not happy with your own work on your bikes, then please get them double checked by a trained mechanic, or go and ask that trained mechanic for help or advice. We are using our very good friend Rob Bean, who is Mean Bean Motorcycles. You can get his details below in the description of this video. Rob does all the spannering work for us on our test bikes and project bikes of this, which this is one, and you'll see this up on More Bikes and in the various other titles that we do as well. So for today, this is all about what you might call a minor service, and to do that we are changing the oil. We're going to change the oil filter, we're going to change the air filter, we're going to have a look at the plugs and change those as well if needed. You'll notice that the bike is not on its usual raised up work stand. That's because to do this sort of work you kind of want it on the floor. It should be level, it should be upright. If I just move the trolley out of the way here, you can see that we've got this on a ProWorks paddock stand. And we've drained the oil, and we've left it for about an hour just to get all of the oil out of the engine. We've put the new sump plug back in. We've got a new sump plug with a washer, and that's a good tip. If you're doing this, it is really worth going to get a new sump plug and a washer. You can get those from the manufacturers, or you can get them aftermarket. The ones from the manufacturers don't cost very much, and it really is a bit of a false economy to put the original sump plug and the washer back in. You're far better off getting the pair of them if you can do so. The ProWorks paddock stand we like very much. Holds the ZXR very sturdy and upright. We don't have to worry about it. And this comes from XL Moto. Now, XL Moto have been involved with us throughout these videos, and you can contact XL Moto for your own parts and bits and fluids, etc. that you need, just like we have. And there is a URL alongside me on screen. Click on that, it'll take you straight through to XL Moto, but click on it at the end of this video. Don't click on it now, you want to watch the video, you know how these things work. So, the things that we're going to need for this amount of work, this minor service effectively. First up, cloths. We're big fans of cloths. Get your cloths ready, always good to have cloths to hand. And there's a process of this work as well, which is working from clean to dirty. So you always start on the clean end, the top end, and then you go around to the dirty stuff. Better than getting dirty and then coming back up to the clean. It's a nightmare. So we're going to change the air filter. The air filter we're using is a high flow air filter. Absolutely bog standard, exactly the same as the one that will come out of the bike. And they don't cost very much, but we do recommend that you get a good air filter. This is a very good one. Use these all the time, so bear that in mind. Again, you can get this from XL Moto. If you just click on the URL, you get the full spec on that. For the oil, we're going to use, again, a high flow filter. We're using the racing high flow filter here. It's got RC on the end of it. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. The camera comes in to have a look at it, and we have RC on the end of it. That just means racing, and what that means is if I turn the box like that, so you can see it's got a nut on the end. That just means it's very easy to put on and take off. A lot of filters don't have that, but an RC one has the nut on the end. Worth bearing in mind. Other things we will need, obviously spark plugs, if we're going to change the spark plugs, NGK spark plugs, great spark plugs, obviously, and we'll need some 1040 weight oil. Rob, who is just behind the camera, can you find the oil, mate? It's down there, I think, in the green. Is that the oil there? Oh, it's just here. It was just here all the time. Bear with me. So there we go. So we've got some 1040 there, oil as well. Part synthetic, that's going to go in the bike, obviously. You'll need some brake cleaner, some WD-40, whatever tools and necessary spanners, etc. for this job. Don't forget your gauges for your spark plugs. It's all that's complicated. It's not really. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you've got everything in line. And to get the oil filter off the bike, you would use a tool like this. Normally this is a filter wrench. I say normally because as we've come here to do the filming in this lovely studio with our lovely bike and our lovely Rob, my job was to get a filter wrench, and I've got a car filter wrench by mistake. So this does not fit the wrench that the filter that we're going to use. So here's a little workshop tip that we've decided to do to show you. Normally we wouldn't do this, but this is a long flathead screwdriver and this is a hammer. You'll see why they work together to get the filter off. We thought we might as well show you that because we've got to do a bit of a work around the fact that this is a car one. And it's worth bearing in mind, make sure if you do order a filter wrench, you get a filter wrench in the right size for motorcycle filters. So that's it basically. We're going to do the oil, we're going to do the oil filter, we're going to do the spark plugs, we're going to do the air filter, and that's basically what you would call a minor service. So Rob will now start wielding the spanners, and we'll just tell you what the process is as we're going through it. Hi, me again. Just a very quick one. Two things I forgot to tell you about completely. Sorry. Haynes manual. Go get a Haynes manual. We say this at the start of nearly all of our videos. What did I say at the start of this one, if I remembered? Haynes manuals are great. You're not too big, you're not too clever enough to not have a Haynes manual for your motorcycle. They don't cost very much. We really recommend them. Not only will they tell you all the specifications for all the fluids for your motorcycle, they'll also tell you things like torque values and bolt sizes and anything like that else that you need, technical information wise. Also, obviously, I'm sure you've seen the Haynes manual, but if you haven't, it's full of step-by-step photographic instructions as to how to do most things. And Haynes manuals now tell you what's an easy job and a complicated job, so at least you get some sort of idea going through. But in addition to us showing you here, we really recommend Haynes manuals. And the oil, I'm just going to do this right because Rob, our brilliant mechanic, has just pointed out that the oil's down here on the trolley somewhere. Where is it, Rob? Down, where's my finger? What, here? Down there? That's it. That's it. That's the actual oil we're using. Honestly, sometimes you've got to wonder, haven't you? But that's the oil that we're using, our motor oil. I didn't think that first oil looked right when I picked it up, if I was honest with you. It was our motor oil, and that's what we're putting in the bike. Okay, so that's it. All the addendums, the additions, and everything else. Let's get on with getting on with doing a minor service on the Kawasaki ZXR 750. This is the bike. As you can see, underneath the bike we've got our large oil catch tray. We've brought the bike up to temperature, let it get warm, and we've turned it off, and then we've taken the sump plug out, the washer off, and we've let the oil drain out. It's taken about an hour to do, and we thought we'd do that before we started showing you this video because nobody wants to watch oil come out of a bike for an hour. So it's good to go. The new sump plug is in with the new washer. That's in, that's all in position. So as far as the bike is set, we're now good to go with the filter going in. One thing we did do as well is take the plug out the top of the cases here, and that just stops any vacuum going on, just lets it all flow through. Worth bearing that in mind when you come to do it. So that's it. We're ready to start with the top of the bike. Remember, we're clean to dirty. So it's up here from the beginning. So Rob's starting on the spark plugs. Just a little pointer here that spark plugs are normally numbered 1 to 4, left to right. They're usually numbered, as you can see here, on the actual HT leads, as we've got in the Kawasaki. If they're not, it is well worth you doing it yourself. Bit of tape and number them, just so as you know what order they are due back on, okay? So if you don't have your filter wrench to hand, or a filter wrench at all, this is how you get the oil filter off the bike. Long flathead screwdriver and a hammer, and carefully pierce the filter all the way through and turn the filter away to loosen it off the bike. Just like that. Okay, so the new oil is in. The spark plugs haven't been put back in. And what Rob's going to do now is he's going to just turn the bike over for a few turns, and that just gets the oil going through the system. The reason that we don't put the spark plugs in is so that there's no compression on rods or something like that as the engine's turning over. You don't want that to happen just yet. This is basically good oil maintenance at the very start of turning the bike over. So that's it really. That's you could call that a minor service on the bike. Oil changed, we've got the air filter changed, we've got the oil filter changed, and we've got the plugs, new plugs have gone in. And it's a fairly straightforward job. Remember, we're clean to dirty. You'll notice that when we were doing the oil, we lifted the bike up off the side stand just to make sure the levels are still good. And then after Rob turned it over without the plugs in, check the oil level again. It's worth saying that if you fill anything up or you drain anything out, like oil, like coolant, like anything, it's very much worth, once the engine's warm, checking your levels, go out for a run. You know, not too far. It's never wise to commit yourself to a big ride straight after doing some work. Go out for a few miles, come back, check the levels again, because they can drop quite significantly on some motorcycles. Just gives you a chance just to top them up to where they need to be. But in terms of a minor service, that's pretty much it for these elements of getting this bike up and running. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay tuned to More Bikes for plenty more to come.